Well, anyway, thank you guys. Appreciate your patience. Took a little while to get through the crowd, a little longer than I think we thought. Great rally, great crowd, and very enthusiastic. Hopefully that turns into a great Oklahoma victory next Tuesday. Let me throw it open unless you ask anything you want. Yes, sir.
Governor, a lot of Oklahoma Republicans were supporters of candidates who are no longer in the race. And as the races develop, some of them are drifting in the direction of Senator McCain. What would you say to those Republicans as they're making up their minds to explain to them why they should not vote for John McCain and should vote for you instead?
Well, I think people of Oklahoma will sit down and think about this, and they'll realize that a person who is an Arkansas governor for 10.5 years will far better understand the unique interest of people of Oklahoma, more so than a senator who's been in Washington for 25 years out of Arizona. It's not that John McCain's not a good and decent guy, but I think in terms of when Oklahoma thinks about who's in the White House, they'd like to know that somebody knows the difference between Ardmore, where McAllister and Ida Bell and places like that are, and been to most all of those places, and understands the unique culture of the Midwest and the South. And I think all of those are factors, but being from a state level, you've actually run a government, and you've actually run a microcosm of the federal government. And there's a real need for people who are going to run Washington to realize what the decisions are going to do to states. But I also believe that the consistency of my views on pro-life and Second Amendment issues that I know matter to Oklahomans just like they do to people in Arkansas, I believe that will be an important factor.
You won the Iowa caucus earlier this month, but have you thought about why you haven't won any races or primaries since then?
The issue sometimes is lost that we get the nomination by delegate count, and I've placed in every single contest. Places, most of which were up in the north, Michigan, New Hampshire, places where nobody really thought I would do that well, Wyoming. We would have won South Carolina had Fred Thompson not been in the race at that time. He took votes that we would have surely had. Almost won it even with him in the race. And, I think if you look at the fact that 2 months ago everybody assumed Rudy Giuliani was the de facto favorite, he was the guy that was going to win, then it was Fred Thompson, then it was Fred and Rudy, and neither one of them are in the race, and I still am. The delegate count is what's going to matter, and we've placed in now every one of those contests in a way that gives us, the capacity to keep going. Tuesday's going to be a big test for us, but it's never about winning states, it's about winning delegates that ultimately is going to matter. You've got to have 1,191 to get the nomination. When somebody gets those, they put the stake in the ground and call it a day. Till then, it's anybody's game.
When you were governor of Arkansas, you clashed with Oklahoma a few times over the water quality.
Not with Oklahoma, just the Attorney General.
Do you think that that's is any kind of an issue?
No, because I think most people in Oklahoma realize that that was an issue that was not with the people of Oklahoma. We wanted clean, pure water as much as people of Oklahoma did. But it was an issue of his not using scientific data to try to come up with a solution that everybody could live with, and never could quite get him to accept that while we were willing to meet stringent guidelines, they had to be measurable and they had to be scientifically sound. And those were the criteria that were never quite met. But, I certainly never had a fuss with the people of Oklahoma, and I don't think you saw a fuss in there today. It's quite an enthusiastic group of folks.
You seem to be doing pretty well in Oklahoma. Do you think that chicken cost you?
No, I don't think so at all. And there's no reason that it would, because, again, my fight was not with people of Oklahoma. It wasn't even over clean water. It was over unreasonable demands that one person in Oklahoma put. It wasn't the governors, and it wasn't just me that had to fight. Our Democrat governor, who's there now, when he was Attorney General, was having the same fight. So, Drew was fighting with everybody. It wasn't just me. He wasn't singling me out. He was, gunning down for Mike Beebe, then the Attorney General, now the governor. So it wasn't a unique battle between us.
Is there a situation where you would consider being a vice president on the Queen or Roman?
There's a situation I would maybe consider one of them, but, right now I'm still shooting for the presidency. Last time I looked, all these say Mike Huckabee for president, none for vice president. When that sign changes, I'll talk about it, but we're still believing that we've, got a real shot to take the nomination.
What's your strategy for, getting through Super Tuesday and winning as many races as you can?
Well, clearly, if you look at the map, I mean, our strong states are going to be ones like Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia. Here's something a lot of people haven't really thought through, because they maybe are thinking about states, and the media puts such a focus on who wins this state. There are more delegates in Georgia than in Florida. There are more delegates in Missouri than there were in Florida. So what we're looking at is we've got a real opportunity to pick up quite a few delegates on Super Tuesday, and in a lot of areas where we feel like we're going to be very, very strong. My wife is in Alaska right now. She's up there campaigning in the frozen tundra of Alaska. She was in Montana last week. She'll be coming back through, and I think we'll join back up on Monday. But, you know, we're trying to capture even states beyond this part of the Midwest and South. But obviously, those are states that we feel like we'll do very well in.
A lot of conservative commentators say a vote for you is a vote for McCain. What do you say to that?
Actually, a vote for me is a vote for me, and a vote for Mitt Romney, maybe a vote for Hillary Clinton, because the fact is, I've got a far more conservative record than Mitt Romney ever dreamed of having. Where people can come up with branding him a conservative is really, I think, tantamount to requiring an extraordinary level of imagination. And if they're looking for a conservative, they'll vote for me. And I also point to what I said in the rally today. You know, if people are looking for a candidate who is able to actually get to the nomination with a responsible amount of resources, they're going to go with me. If you look at how much money Mitt Romney had to spend to come in second place in New Hampshire, second place in Florida, how much he had to win in the state where he grew up and graduated from high school. You know, we've seen some of the money that he spent. We don't even know how much he spent in January when all these contests were here. All we know is through December, and it's a staggering amount of money. Now, I go back to the point that if you're an MBA and running Bain Capital, and you've got that much investment in something that isn't giving you the return, I know what he did when he ran companies like that. He broke them apart and turned people loose and fired them and sold off the companies. So, you know, rather than suggesting that we'd end our operation, I'd say maybe it's time for him to turn out the lights and lock the doors. Kevin?
The January jobs report came out today. It said 17,000 jobs were lost in January, which is, while it's lower than the projection, is still the highest in 4.5 years. You want to comment a little about that?
Well, it's tragic. You know, people losing jobs, and usually it's the folks at the bottom end of the economic spectrum who lose theirs first. You know, we saw the housing numbers the other day. New home starts down 46%. And when that happens, just remember that when people aren't building new homes, carpenters don't have jobs, plumbers aren't working as many hours, electricians aren't, roofers aren't, and the people that it hurts the most are the folks out there in the labor market who have crafts and skills that have to make sure that there is a strong housing market. Then it starts affecting building materials and the supplies and the people that drive them back and forth. And that's why I say, you know, sometimes people have talked about a trickle-down economy where strong economic times eventually trickle down and everybody gets a piece of it. The reality and opposite effect of that is it's a trickle-up recession that happens. And that means that the people who feel it first are the ones who feel it the hardest. And that's why what I was saying a few months ago in Dearborn, and what I continue to say, that for which I was scorned and laughed at, has proven to be true. That when you start seeing people who are living from paycheck to paycheck, when they start struggling, then you're going to finally see that start filtering up and affecting a lot of other people.